Motor that can rush the passer inside. Grant Wistrom, that's expected to be the pick.
Draft, the Rams select defensive end, Nebraska, Grant Wistrom.
Well, this certainly adds up, and Mel, he's a heck of a player. Ray Childress, kind of his style a little bit.
Very
right?
consistent, Chris. I think you see 273 there. He could have been 255 and been an outside linebacker in the right scheme, but certainly for the Rams, he will be a defensive end with Kevin Carter on the other side. You talk about the consistent motor. Really, this kid comes hard every play. And when he gets in the backfield, he's trying to not only get a sack, but strip the football. And I think when you look at the intensity, takes you down, he takes you down hard. He's also strong. This is against the University of Washington, against Brock Huard. So you're looking at a guy very disruptive throughout his career. Of course, Jason Peter on the inside, Wistrom on the outside. He also has a lot of power in his pass rush for somebody who's only between, say, 255 and 270 during the later stages of his college career with the Huskers.
So Grant Wistrom, drafted by Dick Vermeil, and someone I think he thinks he can just plug right in and probably move him on the depth chart to start.
Jason Peter. Peter was the roommate of Wistrom at Nebraska. Those guys shared a townhouse and also shared the role of defensive leader. Peter and Wistrom at times able to scare their teammates into strong defensive play. And Peter, a guy who has put on a lot of weight like Wistrom since the end of the season. That's
Peter, because their run defense last year, dreadful.
They're trying to restructure their defensive line, and Jason Peter will be a key ingredient. You see 274, well, 292 during individual workouts, so his weight did fluctuate, but he can get off a block, plays through the double team. And remember, late this year, he had those back spasms, and played through that. He was at least on the field, trying to get on the field to play. Really set a great example for his teammates there. Hard-nosed, very relentless here on the sack. I think you look at Jason Peter, he also, because of that size situation, now 292, and his quickness, which you see right there against Brock Huard, gives you the flexibility. He can play a defensive tackle spot, a nose tackle spot, a defensive tackle spot, and a 3-4 for Carolina, and it gives him a lot of flexibility if, in fact, his weight can remain in that 290 range.
Well, Peter will be playing the Carolina Panthers. Hope
had Grant Wistrom rated right there as a caliber of football player that Curtis Enis is. And we would have taken Curtis Enis had he been there in the 6th pick. But we're very happy to take Grant Wistrom. And I think Grant and I had talked about that when he was here in our facility a while back, that if I had the opportunity to draft there a player that I could put the ball in his hand that matched you, I'd probably go with the guy that I put the ball in his hand. But it didn't work out that way, so we're very excited about the way it has happened.
Well, there's no question about the motor of Grant Wistrom and exactly what you're getting, is there?
No, no question. He has great explosion off the line of scrimmage. He has extremely good instinct. He has a great awareness where the quarterback is, and as you say, a great motor. When you put that all together with growth potential, I think we have a fine football player.
Well, they certainly know him in Big 12 country out where you are.
Actually, he started his career at Stanford as a quarterback safety, so he had experience prior to at Stanford before he transferred to Nebraska. Great size, he's a tremendous physical ability. His workouts were really strong. And a quarterback for Nebraska, you saw some things here. Running with the football, strong runner, which means at safety, he's going to be tough. And he showed that at the Hula Bowl as well. And some of the unique things he did at Nebraska in terms of this year, keeping them undefeated, being able to win some close games, and just having kind of an aura about him, where, just like a magical Scott Frost. Here against Missouri, watch this play. The tip ball sent this game into overtime. They ended up winning it in overtime, kept them undefeated and playing for a national title. Here you're seeing at safety in the Hula Bowl, and he's calling on some of that prior experience he had at Stanford early in his career. So he's not a total projection. And remember, John Lynch at Stanford was a quarterback when he came in, played safety, and now is a starting safety, doing a very good job at Tampa Bay. Scott Frost has that kind of ability, Joe.
I think the interesting thing about Scott Frost is the fact that if you play for Bill Parcells, there's two things you have to be. You have to be physically tough, and we certainly have seen that in Scott Frost. And you also have to be mentally tough to be able to play for Bill. And that's exactly the way he is. Now, remember, last year, Ray Lucas, a converted guy. So you're taking these quarterbacks and moving them around to positions where you can get productivity out of them. But still, these are tough mental football players. They're the kind of guys that Bill Parcells wants on his football team. And we know what it's like to play here in New York. Heck, we know what it's like to do the draft here in New York. It's tough at times.
All the teams that interviewed them had an interest in Scott Frost, kept asking these guys, what about Scott Frost? So there was some intrigue in the NFL. Parcells is the one that pulls the trigger. Mike, what do you think about him? And as late as the East-West Shrine game, which we both did, he was still holding out hope to play quarterback. Didn't look like an NFL quarterback in those workouts.
No, I don't think he's going to be a quarterback. I think he's going to be a defensive back, but he's 6'2", 220, 4'6", 40, and he wins. I think that's the key.
A change of pace back there. Ricky Wooders, of course, the main guy, but if you look at the Y, a guy 5'11", 213 who was running 4.25s, 4.3 prior to the draft, drops to the third round. More of a straight line runner, north-south, not a lot of elusiveness or creativity. Very inexperienced pass receiver as well. 5 or 6 games this year, actually didn't even have a reception. Not a great blocker. So a straight line speed guy, maybe a product of that tremendous offensive line at Nebraska. But when you run a 4.25 and you're 213 pounds in the third round as a change of pace type, why not roll the dice? You see him here, this is the straight line ability we talked about. And yeah, when you flash that kind of speed, you just hope in the NFL, if you're Seattle, that you can develop a little bit more creativity. For a back in the National Football League to all of a sudden change his style, very difficult. I think that was the concern that NFL teams had. So instead of being a late first, early second, here he is in the middle of round 3.
You know, it's interesting. You saw the guy hand the ball off to Ahman Green. Of course, it was Scott Frost, who goes as a defensive back in the draft ahead of Ahman Green, who's a 1,000-yard rusher from Nebraska.
And Aaron Taylor, the center guard there, was the Lombardi Award winner, still on the board. So some of those guys, Pollock and those guys that opened some holes for Ahman Green, they're there. Scott Frost, gone early.
Pick for you this high. I mean, you really look at him as being a safety, and you're kind of a player?
Well, Joe, I know that that there was going to be some questions about this guy. We had him in here. We're impressed with him athletically. And our personnel director, Dick Haley, when he was with the Steelers, drafted Carnell Lake. You know, he was a linebacker, made him a safety. I think when you do this, you open yourself to a little bit, but I've always believed that football players are football players, and if a guy can play football, then he can do something for your team to help you. And that's kind of the way we view Scott. I mean, I know he's a football player. It's just kind of coordinating and getting him in the right spot and trying to make him comfortable and allow him or be patient enough to allow him to make the transition. We know he can handle it mentally. We know he can handle it physically. Now, it's just, can we get him the knowledge and get him the feel for the position?
And then just a few minutes ago, we selected Aaron Taylor from Nebraska, another guy that can play center or guard. Big, strong, rugged offensive blocker off that Nebraska offensive line. So we've gotten 4 good offensive players to help Peyton, help our offense in positions where we felt like